All
Looking
right.
good.
Feeling good, Hilary. Feeling good.
Wonderful.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Zombie Banana Spiders. I'm Colin. With me, as always, we've got Heather.
Hello.
And Hilary. And this is a first mini-sode. We just want to get in. We want to do our thing, and we want to get the hell out. And we thought this would be a great time to talk a little bit about Mardi Gras and the special flavor of New Orleans horror. I feel this is worth a little bit talking about. Mardi Gras, for our overseas viewers, whoever you may be, is really an extension of Carnival, which is a big celebration right before Lent, where you're supposed to get all the sin out before this religious season starts. And it really took off in New Orleans, in Louisiana, here in the States. It's become this huge party, this huge event. Even across the country, if you're not going out to a bar or whatever you're doing, usually they sell in the grocery store king cakes, which are these delicious like cinnamon rolls with icing, or the pakshi donuts. I think that's how you call them. But cool stuff. But I figured there was enough horror stuff set in and around New Orleans that it would be worth talking about. First thing to bring up for you guys, have either of you been to New Orleans?
I've been wanting to go. We've been planning to go for Halloween for like the past few years, but it's kind of been pushed to the side for a bit.
Yeah. And you have, Heather. You nodded your head yes.
Yes, I was there for a conference, for an ethnomusicology conference in October, November. So probably not the greatest time to go, but we got to walk around a lot. We got to see Congo Square. We got to eat some delicious food. So I have been, and it's awesome.
Yeah. It's, again, for overseas viewers, the United States is so big that you get these little pockets of, not really subcultures, but like just the flavors of the country are very different. Like the way New Orleans is very different than Pittsburgh, where I am, or New York City, or Chicago. So New Orleans kind of has, at least in film, how they present it is kind of this like almost like a sleepier vibe. Like everything's a little bit slower down there. You have a lot of like religious influence from immigrants from all over the world that have come in. A lot of them brought like various forms of Christianity in. Voodoo is kind of big down there. The way people speak and that kind of Creole accent and that. So kind of, I find gives a lot of movies and books and everything else a little bit of a flavor that you might not get elsewhere. A horror story that's your take your prototypical slasher. If you set it in New York, it's going to feel different than if you set it in New Orleans. And so I just thought it would be kind of fun to chat about that today. Let's kick it off. Let's just aim for the fences with this. I know Hilary just watched this movie, and so did I. Mardi Gras Massacre. Oh man, this 1974, I think they like literally developed the film in like rot gut gin to give it that patina of gross sliminess. This movie is sleazy, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I was honestly for the first half hour because of the soundtrack too.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, am I watching a porn?
Yep. There is.
I don't think I was, but it had some of the ingredients of that.
There was like full frontal female nudity like within the first 3 minutes. After that dude goes to a bar and tries to find who the most evil prostitute is. Yeah. So it reminds me a lot of Blood Feast by Herschel Gordon Lewis. In that there's this dude who's looking for evil women prostitutes, and he takes him back to his I don't know where it is, but
it's his apartment. It's
right?
an apartment. It's apartment number 4 because they make a specific. Yeah. They make a point. One of the first prostitute makes a point of saying 4 is my lucky number, and then she said it exactly like that too. And then there's like a secret area in his apartment where there's like a sacrificial chamber somehow.
It's huge. Like, how does he afford the rent on that place?
I know.
So he tells these women, take off your clothes, and they go, okay, and they do. And they lay on the sacrificial altar, and he stabs them. And I like that they did make at least some women torsos for him to cut open, and all this super bright red blood comes out, and he pulls out like meat byproducts out of the wounds.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out what the torsos were made out of because it looked so good. If it's latex, the person that made it was very, very good.
Yeah.
But I looked him up, and I don't know if it's the same person because according to IMDb, he did 2 movies in 1978 and then didn't work again until like 2006. At least in film. And then he did makeup for like The Host, if you remember that movie. Not the Korean one, the one
Stephanie Meyer one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And a couple other movies since then. But he spent 30 years not working in film and then came back and did some actually pretty big budget movies, if it's the same person.
You know, I got to say about this movie, like it definitely was shot in New Orleans. Everybody's running around.
Yep.
You know, there at one point there's a dude in a bar who's wearing a New Orleans Saints jersey, which I was like, okay, you know, that's local color. They got that down right. But yeah, this thing was sleazy and slow, but I kind of recommend it because of the really terrible dialogue and line reads, and I kind of had a good time with it, but I could totally understand if somebody said this movie's dog shit and stay away from it. So
yeah, I don't know. I always think that people should like make their own decision on movies, but it just makes me feel really sad for some of these female actors because there was a part where one of the prostitutes was dancing around. First of all, like the least sexy dancing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But she was in the sacrificial chamber, and the dude was gonna let her go, and she was dancing around like she had training, like she'd actually been training as a ballerina. And I looked her up on IMDb. She didn't even have a name. Her character didn't even have a name in the movie. And she never did another film. So I hope that she made it as a ballerina because, like, that sucks. Because she was dancing like a ballerina naked. Like, that's the whole thing is, like, that all the females in the movie got completely naked.
Completely.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. This movie to me is, it's kind of a nasty little train wreck, but hey, you got about 3 minutes of scenes of Mardi Gras in it, so I guess it counts.
There was literally, to say how much went into this movie, the end credits was literally 30 seconds. Like, the movie is like 94 minutes or something like that, and I was waiting for it to end.
Yeah.
And they didn't even get to Mardi Gras until the last like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It was in New Orleans, but it wasn't actually like they had floats and stuff in like the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the counter was counting down, and I was like nowadays, credits are 15, 20 minutes long. And this movie had literally 30 seconds worth of credit. It was insane to me.
Yeah. I agree, man. This was this was something. But hey, Mardi Gras Massacre. Let's go to Heather. I know you like or have something to say about the Dean Koontz Frankensteins, and that's set in New Orleans, right?
It is.
Has that got some New Orleans feels to it?
It really does. I should have looked up the year. I will put it right there. When he wrote these books, but they are set in New Orleans. You do get a lot of New Orleans feel. I wonder how much somebody from New Orleans would either recognize this or not. Because I have a lot to say about this series, but I'm going to keep it brief. This might be for another episode.
Okay.
Because I don't know Dean Koontz's relationship with New Orleans. So I don't know if he's writing it as the actual city or if he's writing it as like a tourist's understanding of New Orleans, or if he's writing it as like just, I've never been there, but I've heard things about it. Because there are some things, some choices he makes, let's say, that try to capture that flavor of New Orleans, because he talks about the food. He talks about very specific restaurants, and he goes out of his way to say these are restaurants that only locals know about. And he goes out of his way to talk about street slang and how his one character is so down because she knows the street slang. And it seems to me like it's trying to be a love letter to New Orleans, but it fails.
Okay.
So I could keep talking about this series forever. We will say that. Colin challenged me for this mini-sode. He challenged me to write a haiku. And so
Heather said that she would talk way too much about this. So I said, then put it in a haiku form, man. That's 17 syllables. You've got to say what you got to say.
So here is my Dean Koontz Frankenstein haiku. Louisiana. Drink in the hot, sweet, dark breeze. Frankenstein lives again.
Fucking beautiful.
Again.
I want that on my tombstone, Heather, with pepperoni and sausage. That was really good, man. I genuinely like that. I thought that was very cool.
Thank you. I did also write a limerick. Dan suggested a limerick because he said it gave me more space to talk. So
hit us with this limerick.
I just really just wrote this. I don't know if it's gonna work or not. Okay, so there once was an author from PA whose Frankenstein tridge was okay. Set in the Big Easy, but it made me a bit queasy when sense and continuity went away.
That was really good, dude. You put a lot of thought, time, and effort in that. I'm impressed. I am very impressed. So, would you recommend the Dean Koontz Frankensteins to readers that want to get a New Orleans vibe? You kind of said you didn't like it for that, or?
Honestly, I don't know, because I feel like New Orleans has such a history with American Gothic writing, like parts of and horror writing, like parts of Interview with a Vampire was set in New Orleans. I know that there are Anne Rice novels that have been set in New Orleans, and this series feels almost like it's trying to kind of be like those, but it's also trying to be too many other things. So I would say if you want that sort of American not nostalgic, if you want that American Gothic Louisiana horror feel, you don't really want this series. It's entertaining, I guess. And I know that he's written more. I've only read the first 3 books. I know he's written more. I haven't read them yet. But I would actually recommend them such that people would talk to me about them.
Gotcha. I dig it. So a couple more, and I'll hit them rapid fire of things that speak to me. I was going to bring up Interview with the Vampire, the first book, Interview with the Vampire. That's got that kind of New Orleans Southern Gothic feel, which I dig in a lot of the moments. It's very cool. Some other ones that I really like are the remake of Cat People from 1982. Have you guys seen this? They kind of have that Southern Gothic, like, I don't know. It's got that vibe to it that I'm looking for. I dig. That's a good one.
And Zombie Island.
Yes.
That's a good one, Hilary. Yes. That one still holds up to this day, I have to say. I still like it. And that came out in what, like 2000 or something, early 2000s, right?
A while ago.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, but I remember when it came out being stunned that it was the first like Scooby-Doo that had actual monsters in it. Like they weren't just people in costumes. I know 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo had that, but you know.
Also, Boo Brothers and Ghoul School, but those are just Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy. They're not.
Yeah.
The main Scooby-Doo gang.
So you could say that Shaggy was potentially on mushrooms when this season happened, and there were no actual ghosts or monsters. It was just all in his blown out mind. I dig it. That's a good call, Hilary. I know, Hilary, you wanted to talk about Dracula 2000, which
when you mentioned
New Orleans.
Yeah, that was the first movie that I thought about because when he wakes up, he is walking around Mardi Gras, and it's like the interesting. I enjoy that movie because there's biblical ties to it, and like the whole idea of decadence and silver and gold and things like that. Really play into the whole New Orleans, and it makes sense for it to be set there. So I enjoyed that.
Okay.
How do you feel about that movie?
Like at the time, I thought it was kind of cool, but honestly, I don't think I've thought about it since the year 2000 for the most part.
Oh my goodness, like, Gerard Butler?
Yeah.
As a vampire? With long hair?
Don't they throw all that rice at him to slow him down at some point? Is that the same movie or is that the sequel? Okay. I remember, I think I still have it, the Fangoria with the big spread on it on Dracula 2000, and Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9 from Star Trek Voyager was one of the brides in that movie. So
yes. Like, there's so many great people. Christopher Plummer, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
That one guy from Hackers that got to make out with Angelina Jolie.
Johnny Lee Miller, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They were married, I think, for a while.
Really?
Or dating, but yeah, either way. Yeah, not a bad flick, man. I need to revisit that one.
There's also a couple book series that I read that are set in New Orleans that I really enjoy. They're not specifically Mardi Gras, but they are set in New Orleans. I don't know very much about the authors either, so they may be just pulling stuff out of their booty. But the first series is called the first book of the first series is called Black Bayou. and it's about this girl who finds out that she is descended from a family of Southern like slave owners. And if you know any, like, what was that woman's name who was awful that lived in New Orleans? They always talk about her.
Oh, she like tortured the slaves in her attic. That one.
Yeah,
I can't remember her name, but yeah,
that's sort of the family that she's related to, and she didn't realize it. But
okay.
It turns out that family had made a deal with a demon, so they have to feed the demon to keep their family prosperous and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So it's about this girl discovering what her family history is and kind of like trying to exorcise the demon away from her because it has nothing to do with her, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with her family that way. So that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, cool. It's not on audiobook. I mean, it's you can still read it like listen, but it's not on audiobook. And then the second one is the first book is called To Murder a Saint, and this one's not supernatural. This one is just like a whodunit type thing. But there are 3 in the series, and they're very good. It's a lot of fun to have the whole, like you said, Southern Gothic element to it. It honestly, even the series that doesn't have supernatural elements to it, it still seems kind of mysterious and supernatural because it is set in New Orleans and the Louisiana Bayou, and how it seems like if there is magic in the world, that's one of the places that it would exist.
Very cool. Very cool. I dig it. I'd like to bring up, we've got Candyman 2, Farewell to the Flesh. I feel like Tony Todd's Candyman, he kind of comes from that Southern Gothic idea, and setting him in Louisiana instead of Chicago like the first movie is kind of a match made in heaven. I still think the first movie is way better, but I really like the atmosphere in this one. The Hatchet movies start off in Mardi Gras. Yeah. Great special effects, cool bad guy. The first one's great. The second and third one, they get a little... They tried, but man.
I like that they got that chick back. Like, they got the same actress, I think, through the first, second, and third one. And even is there first, second, and third, and then Victor Crawley is the fourth, or is there a fourth one and then Victor Crawley?
I don't remember seeing a fourth one, so it might be 1, 2, 3. And I think they actually recast the girl in the second and third movie, and they kept her throughout. Yeah, Brianna Evigan. But
well, yeah, whoever she is throughout, the one who's the most in it, I enjoy her a lot. She shows up in a lot of horror movies, and I feel like
she does.
In terms of, I've worked in movie theaters for 17 years. I haven't really heard anybody talking about this woman who keeps showing up in all these really great horror movies. She's wonderful, and I like her a lot. So.
Yeah, agreed. Those are fun. Get a little bit of Mardi Gras, get some slasher with the Hatchet movies. And let's see. And then I got to bring up Angel Heart 2, which is a kind of a voodoo devil movie that's got a lot of controversial press. It was so extreme at the time. And Lisa Bonet from the Cosby Show kind of shed her good girl image to be in this movie. So it's got some cool voodoo stuff in it. Robert De Niro in a cool performance as Louis Cypher. I wonder who he is. But cool movie. So Angel Heart's got that vibe in spades. 1986. So let me look it up. 1987. I'm sorry. So Angel Heart is a pretty cool flick. So it's got that sleaze factor going for it, that New Orleans sleaze. So yeah, do you guys have any other thoughts on New Orleans or Mardi Gras or anything like that?
I've never really been interested in the whole idea of Mardi Gras, like the partying never
Mhm.
really interested me, but the idea of New Orleans and I has always intrigued me, and I'm sure they throw a killer party for Halloween, so that's still a
Mhm.
goal of mine is to make it down there for Halloween. Um, so
Yeah, right on. How about you, Heather? Any closing thoughts?
Um, it's interesting, and we can use this or not. Um, but the first thing that always pops to my mind when somebody mentions Mardi Gras is very far from like horror fiction and Southern
Mhm.
Gothic, but it's the Mardi Gras Indian tradition, which is
Hmm.
it's a tradition that very old, um, grew out of slavery, particularly in that part of the United States. Um,
Hmm.
but it's basically a tradition of African Americans who mask as Native Americans during Mardi Gras. And it's in part to celebrate their own heritage as African Americans, but also in part to honor Native Americans who helped runaway slaves. And there's a whole history that's sort of there with this culture underneath the surface of the New Orleans Mardi Gras, because for a very, very long time, because they were black, they weren't allowed to participate in the official Mardi Gras parades and the official parties. So they had their
Hmm.
own parade routes that went through their neighborhoods. There was a history of violence because the Mardi Gras Indian crews were kind of like gangs. So whenever they encountered each other, there'd often be fights. Sometimes there would be, bloodshed. Sometimes people would die, and there's this whole history of this that people are starting to learn more about now, in part because of tourism drawing more attention, because you might have seen the Mardi Gras Indians parading and masking, because their regalia is huge and colorful
Hmm.
and gorgeous, and so they take amazing pictures. So
Hmm.
people will take pictures of them and they'll use it to advertise, for tourists to come to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, not sort of acknowledging this whole history of
Sure.
ignoring and keeping them out. So it kind of, to me, knowing about that contributes to this sort of feel and flavor of New
Hmm.
Orleans, where you
Yeah,
kind of have what you see on the surface and then what's going on underneath.
that's a great way to say that, and that's a very interesting part of history. And what a great that what you said at the end there talks about so much of the horror we love and the history too. So that's very, very cool. Well, I think that there's so much we could talk about with New Orleans, but I just want to say from Zombie Banana Spiders to everybody watching, happy Fat Tuesday. Stay safe, whatever you guys are doing, and have fun.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.